what we don't realize is that the things that we have learned and the things that the adults around us have taught us since we were young are sometimes things that maybe they helped us get to where we are, but they don't help us get from where we are now to where we want to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. Today I have a very special guest, and one of the things I love about doing these shows is you get to meet people from all walks of life. Different things that they've done, different things they're doing, different places they're going. You think about going to an intersection of life, intersection of a street. Same thing. You've got people that have all come from a different place. They're all going a different direction, but the one thing you have is the moment at that intersection that you're all there at that point in time, which is selfishly why I love doing this podcast show, because I get to see different people in different walks of life, in different areas, and different rules and regulations that they're following and paths. And, you know, again, we're just at a certain intersection that you get to talk to them, and you get to kind of ask them like, hey, what's your story? And everybody has a past where they came from. Everybody has a present where we're all looking at right now. And every single person on this planet has a future that they don't know what is going to happen in the next second, 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours. So today I am joined by Jeniffer Nash, Dr. Jeniffer Nash. Jeniffer, nice to meet you. Thanks for being on today.
Very nice to meet you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, the high level overview.
Mm-hmm. So I am an executive coach and management consultant. I am based in Austin, Texas and Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I have been doing coaching and consulting work for the last 25 years.
Austin, Texas and Ann Arbor, Michigan. Those are not two cities that I would think, unless you went to college in one. They're both college towns. So what's the connection between those two?
So I did go to college in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And I am currently in Austin, Texas. My husband likes hot weather, so we decided to give it a try.
You are in a good place for that. Living in Houston myself,
Sure.
I can attest you're in a good climate for that.
Yeah.
So you said you've been doing this for 25 years. Let me ask you, if we were to strip away all the credentials, all the accolades, everything, who would you say Jeniffer is?
I am a creative at heart.
What does that mean?
What I mean by that is I'm someone who doesn't fit into a box very easily. So I had a difficult time when I was in corporate because they never knew where to put me. They never knew where to fit me. I didn't fit into any normal box. I started out as a dancer and a pianist, and then transitioned into business. And so that's a very non-traditional background and a very different way of thinking, going into a space that at the beginning I knew nothing about.
What causes a transition from the arts, right, dancing and pianist, into the structure of corporate America being a business coach? What's the correlation there?
So I would say that, and I'm sure many of your listeners have experienced this, right? I had parents who wanted me to be able to, earn an education and support myself when I graduated. And there was a concern that if I spent time trying to be in that more fine arts world or the, performing arts world, that I maybe wouldn't be able to support myself. And there was a fear around that. And so that drove me to pursue a type of career where I could combine some of the things that I still loved, like foreign languages, with getting to talk with people and learn about people and their culture and their customs, and interact with them and create that connection and communication while doing it just in a different manner than maybe, performance arts.
So I'm curious, as you were going through this journey and transition of all this, is there a part of the journey that we'll say nobody knows about, nobody claps about, but maybe was a big changing moment for you?
I would say there are a lot of those, but there are things I don't talk about.
Okay. What are ones that you would talk about?
So, one of the ones I would talk about is coming into a space where you don't know anything. It's like you've been dropped into a world that you can't make sense of. You don't speak the language, but yet you have to figure out how to sink or swim. And so that was me when I went into the business world. I didn't know how things operated. I didn't have parents who were in business and had lots of network and connections and things like that. So I really had to figure it out on my own. And what worked for me was being the person who observed and being the person who watched how things were happening and always seeking to understand why people would do the things the way they did. What was the driver for that motivation? And that is the thread that connects all of the work that I have done since I started in the business world to finishing my PhD and then becoming a coaching consultant. Because one of the things you have to do as a coaching consultant is you have to be really comfortable with asking questions.
Yeah. While you were going through the journey from the arts of dancing and being a pianist to the education executive world, did
Mm-hmm.
you ever feel like you were kind of behind the curve? Like you jumped into this world that was moving along and it's like I got to speed this up to get any feelings like that? Cuz I can relate being an airline pilot, getting furloughed and having to figure out how to be an entrepreneur, and I felt like I was behind the curve because everyone else had all this time to do it and I felt like I was in some race that I didn't realize I was losing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's common that we seek to compare ourselves to others and assess where are we at on that developmental curve. And I think it's important for people to remember that everyone is on their own journey. You know, you had certain things that you were facing on that journey that I would not have to deal with or I didn't even know about. Yet I had other things that I was facing that maybe weren't a challenge or a struggle for you. So I think it's really common when people say, oh my gosh, well, this person's so much farther ahead, or, well, this person, it looks like they've got everything all figured out. They've got a great net worth, maybe they'll get to retire early. Um, at the end of the day, what matters is where are you at on your journey? What are you taking away from that? And what is it that you want to accomplish, right? What is going to matter for you? And how are you make a difference? How are you making a difference in this world at the end of the day?
Did you always want to be a coach? Like, is that something that you thought I would want to do this, or did it come kind of out of left field as you evolved into this person that you are today?
Yeah, I would say, I was coaching before coaching was a thing. I was coaching before I even knew to call it coaching. Throughout my life, I have always had people coming to me seeking, asking me questions, seeking guidance and advice, which isn't exactly what you do as a coach, but I've always had that kind of interaction with people. And part of that just comes from being a great listener. People feel heard and they want to feel heard. And so when they find someone who does that, because especially in this age when things are so busy and there's so much noise, it's hard to find someone who actually listens and actively listens. And you can tell when someone is listening to you. So a lot of that skill was developed over, like I said, that observation, that I was doing in the workplace, but also just some of the natural innate talents that I had. And when I got to the space of figuring out that, oh, coaching was actually a profession and I could actually, become a professional certified coach, um, it became very clear to me, what that path was and why those threads had combined in that way up until that point.
Is there a certain when you're coaching people? Is there a certain level of I don't want to say satisfaction, but solving of a puzzle? Like, do you get that where it's like, okay, you've got this information. Do you see a clear line of where you want it to go, or how do you do that?
One of the key skills for a coach, and not many have this, is the ability to see patterns. And we know from research that one of the key characteristics of an effective leader is empathy. Yet, one of the characteristics that leaders need the most is also this ability to recognize patterns because it helps them be more effective. So, when you notice these patterns in your clients and you can surface those, they now gain awareness of something that they didn't know before. And now it's up to them what they want to do with that and how they want to interpret that information. So, as a consultant, I would say, yes, absolutely. When I help my client figure out the puzzle and fit all the pieces together, that's very satisfactory. But as a coach, my job is just really to provide the person with something that I'm noticing. If it's okay that I mention it to them and get their permission, because sometimes people don't want to hear it. Um, and then if it is, I share that with them and then ask them simply, what do they want to do with that?
Do you think successful people, leaders, are they born or bred?
I don't think it's an either or, it's an and. I
What do you mean?
believe so. I believe that you have innate skills and capabilities that we're all born with, right? You have a distinct set of those. I have a distinct set of those. Elon Musk has a distinct set, right? They're not necessarily Venn diagram overlapping. What you also need is an environment that creates the conditions for you to either enhance those skills, or in some cases, the environment that you're in will cause you to um, decrease that skill set or rely on a different one so that that other skill set doesn't get as much practice or um, um, recognition. And so I think it's both. I think you have to be in an environment that engenders the development of leadership skill. And I also think that you need to have some of those innate qualities and skills and capabilities that make great leaders great.
Are there people that you meet along your journey that you're like, this person doesn't have it? They don't. They it can't be. Look, I think that when you're born, right, you sleep, eat, and poop, and that's about all that we do naturally, and everything else is a learned skill. Learning to speak is a skill. Learning
Mhm.
to golf is a skill. Learning to do all these. Some are great golfers, right? But I don't think anyone is natural at anything. I think you got to practice and get better. And some people, you're just like, me slam dunking a basketball, you're probably going to go, Steve, it's just not going to happen. Like it's just not in your cards. Are there people that you see traits when you go, it's just not in your cards? It's not a strength of yours. Is that something you see or no?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very visible to me. It's not always so visible to the client that I'm working with.
Sure,
And the clients are not always open to hearing the truth.
sure.
And so in those cases, it becomes a question of, I've observed these data points. Are you interested in knowing what I observe? If you are, great, I'll share it with you. If you're not, that's fine too, right? It's not for me to judge.
If you didn't choose this path, I mean, obviously this was a skill you had to learn, right? You didn't know this, and
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
like being a pianist or a dancer, that's a skill, right? You had to practice, I'm
exactly.
sure, many hours
Yep.
to get, and then obviously it's something that you either liked or you were good at, and you went down the path.
Yeah.
If you didn't choose the path of where you are today, the Jeniffer Nash that I'm talking to today,
Hmm.
where do you think you would be?
I would be on stages performing in like Carnegie Hall as a concert pianist.
Really?
Hmm.
Do you still do that? Do you still practice and play?
Yeah, I still practice and play. Yeah.
Nice. What
Yeah.
is it about that you enjoy?
Oh, it's the ability to lose myself in the present moment. There's a lot of things that vie for our attention in this busy world, right? And one of the few places I find I can be fully present and not distracted is, at the keyboard or when I'm dancing, because you must be fully present. It's a full body experience. There is no like dialing it in, and your brain is not a body taxi. Like you are completely engaged in what you're doing. And that's one of the things I appreciate about that, because there is a your brain relaxes into that space of knowing that it doesn't have to be focused on all these other things and thinking about what's coming ahead and what happened, and you're in the moment. And I appreciate that, because there are very few times in my day when I can just be in the moment like that.
Hmm. That's awesome. I think that's great. Um, as you've been, going to college and going through your educational process
Yeah.
of becoming who you are today, was there any beliefs that you had to let go of that maybe you had from being a pianist? I mean, it's very strict, right? Dancing, all the thing, and maybe some beliefs about success that you had to that maybe were making you stuck that you had to let go of to be who you are today.
Steve, there are so many things that I had to unlearn
Hmm.
in order to be where I am today. Marshall Goldsmith has this great book called, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And typically, he's talking about the skills and capabilities, right, that made you successful maybe as an individual contributor, but aren't necessarily going to make you successful as a director or a VP or a CXO. Um, and I actually have a keynote talk that I do on this about the factor of unlearning, because what we don't realize is that the things that we have learned and the things that the adults around us have taught us since we were young are sometimes things that maybe they helped us get to where we are, but they don't help us get from where we are now to where we want to go.
Okay.
And so, understanding what those things are, how they've helped you up until now, how they're getting in your way now, and then what you need to replace that with going forward is critical for people to go forward and evolve into what they are meant to be.
Yeah, I think I'm sure everyone is says, I wish I had the energy of a 20-year-old, but the knowledge of a 60-year-old,
Right.
because it's like, man, I wish I would know back then, just how we treat our bodies and working out and eating healthy and all those things. Um, is there anything like now you're very knowledgeable, you're educated, you've got a lot of insight in life. Is there anything now that your inner voice tells you that maybe didn't tell you back then when you were going through the early stages of entrepreneurship?
Oh my goodness. When I became an entrepreneur, one of the things that I had to unlearn was that I had it all figured out. I had figured out how to succeed in corporate. I had figured out how to get to the top and stay there. And that takes some talent, right? It's not easy. And so when I became an entrepreneur, I thought, oh well, I've survived that for 25 years. No problem, right? I'll figure this out too. And it came to a crashing halt, because I very quickly realized there is nothing about being an entrepreneur that is similar to working for someone else as a W-2 employee and being in a corporation. It is completely different. So that was probably one of the primary things that I had to unlearn in order to be a successful entrepreneur and succeed. Right? Most of the businesses in this country don't succeed past 5 years. It's like 95% or something fail. It's a huge number. So
I believe that one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs have um, is they're not very good at clarifying definitions. They don't know how to define certain things. Something as simple as cash flow and profit, they can't define. But let's just talk about like why people do what they do. And the reason I say this is, I coach a lot of entrepreneurs, and I get the privilege of speaking on a lot of stages. And I ask a lot of people, I'll ask them the question, why are you doing this? Pretty simple question. Why are
yeah.
you doing this? Why are you getting up every day and giving your life to a business or an idea or a concept? Why are you doing this? And of course, the answer typically is I do it for my family. I do it to make money. I do it to enjoy my life. And my next question is if I pick up the phone today and I call your wife, husband, children, would they agree that they are actually getting the benefits of what you just told me? Because if
Mhm.
not, you're either lying to me or you're lying to them, but someone is being lied to. And
Mhm.
if not, maybe you have the wrong definition of freedom. So I'm curious from your perspective, right? You do something similar as me, right? We do coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you define freedom today for you or for your clients? Like, what does that mean to you?
Hmm. So, freedom to me as an entrepreneur today is the realization of three of my top values. So, the first one is autonomy. I place an immense amount of value on my autonomy. In other words, I can structure my day. I don't have to punch in at a certain time, right? Like, no one is telling me I've got to show up at this time and I have to clock out at this time. There was nothing that frustrated me more in corporate than those kinds of things, because autonomy is one of my highest values. The second value that I have is intellectual freedom. So I have the ability to chase and learn and grow and evolve and continue becoming the best coach I can become without some department telling me, oh, we don't have budget for professional development this year, or oh, you didn't get a bonus this year, so you don't get that perk this year, right? So I have the capability of designing that in the way that works best for me and determining what is best for my clients, right? What I need to continue growing and evolving. Um, and the third value that I have is making sure that I am in service of the client, right? This is not about me at the end of the day. It's about what they are getting when they interact with me and if that is meeting their desired outcome. So, my goal is always making sure that my clients meet their desired outcome. And because they have partnered with me, I get the honor of participating in getting to that outcome with them and helping them be that partner.
Do you find, and I personally find this, so I'm just curious of you, that they really have a hard time even answering that question or understanding, we sometimes we have the perception that if I just keep working hard, I will be successful. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
what is success? Like you can't even define it. So it may walk past you every single day. It doesn't recognize you. You don't recognize it. Everybody keeps going about their day because you don't even know what it looks like. And so I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they really have a hard time identifying what the end result is of all their hard work. Do you find that as well or no?
No, for me, success for me as an entrepreneur is simple. Are my clients achieving their desired outcomes? Because at the
Right.
end
But
of the
I'm saying
day,
for them, do they know their outcomes
yeah.
was my question.
Oh, do my clients know their outcomes?
Yeah. Do you find that a
Um,
lot of them are like, what does that mean?
yeah. So often what I find is that the client will come and say, look, I've got this problem. I'm struggling with X. They may not necessarily know where they want to get to, right? But that takes conversation. It takes some interaction. It takes some time sometimes for people to define that clearly for themselves. Um, and like we talked about earlier, right? A lot of times people will look to others to define what that success is, right? Maybe for you, you define success as I'm going to run a $5 million business and I'm going to work 4 hours a day, right? Maybe that's your success. And so maybe my client will say, well, Joe Blow has this goal. And so, like, that's going to be my goal too. And so we spend some time talking about, well, is that really the right goal for you? How do you define your success? If you've never thought about that before,
Yeah.
what is that going to mean to you? And your success definition today may not be the success definition that you had 10 years ago when you were 20 years old. It may not be the success definition you have for yourself at 65 years old, right? These things may evolve. They're not fixed. But understanding what that is for you today is critical. And let's get clear on that, because without being clear on it, we can't define what your desired outcome is. And then we're not able to make a roadmap to help you get there.
Yeah. And the revenue amount, the success you had at 100,000 is different than a million versus 5 million. So I think I agree 100%. So
Yeah.
what is Jeniffer Nash defining success these days for her? Like, what are you doing today? I know you wrote a book. Tell me what is that success for you?
I wrote a book. So I've got it out there. I don't know if it'll show up here, but it's called Be Human, Lead Human.
Okay.
So that was a success moment for me. I'd always wanted to write a book.
It's awesome.
Um, I am currently pursuing lots of TEDx opportunities. So success for me will be landing a TEDx talk, hopefully this year. Um, and then we have some other like business entrepreneurial ventures in the works that we would like to see, go forward. So that is also a piece of how I'm defining my success today is being able to
And
grow and evolve.
what is the book about?
So the book is around how do leaders lead effectively in this age of AI? How do we help leaders develop the skills that they need to lead humans and AI in this environment that is consistently changing?
Is it harder or easier to lead in the world of AI, in your opinion? Or is it going to be? Maybe that's a better question. Do the principles of leadership change because of AI?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that for a second because my initial thought was it's just as hard to lead now as it was before because things are constantly changing and evolving. So the fact that things are changing isn't what's different.
They always change, right?
Always change. I think what is constant for leaders is how they are thinking about and interacting with this particular technological change because it is different from the ones that we've had before, right? It is changing how we work. It is changing when and why and where we work in some instances. And it's requiring leaders to unlearn quite a bit in terms of what are they afraid of? What do they feel threatened by? What is it that they feel is going to make them irrelevant? And how do they remain relevant in a world that is quickly replacing so many people, right? But what we know from research is that technology typically will create more jobs than it displaces. So helping leaders become comfortable with that, helping them understand how does AI work with them today? How do they integrate it into their job? What is actually changing? And then their job as a leader is to help their people understand those things as well and move through that people element of the change, which is typically missed when you're talking about transformation, technology transformation.
Yeah, I believe that authenticity is going to be at a premium with AI because, you look at someone's videos or presentation, everyone's perfect now. Everyone's PowerPoints are perfect.
Yeah.
But when they
Right.
get on stage to speak like a TEDx talk or they're speaking in front of customers or clients, you can't fake the authenticity of the human. And I think that to me, and that's just my opinion, that I think that is what will be a premium of the people that are authentic and
Mhm.
true, as
Mhm.
opposed to, if you never had to meet someone and it was all AI and it was, in the virtual world, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
I think speaking on stages, same thing with people in the trade and contracting industry. I
Right.
could it replace it? I guess it could at some level, but I don't think it's anytime soon. And
Mhm.
I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. There are a lot of, I call it administrivia, right? There's a lot of administrivia that AI is great for, right? And that should be, if somebody is doing something like that, let's elevate their capabilities, right? Let's help
Sure.
them spend time on things that really matter, like connection and communication and collaboration and helping people work together to deliver the performance the organization deserves, right? But if we've got people working on tasks like in the office where they're like stapling things and data entry and manual things, put that to AI. That is a much better use of that resource. That's why it's there. So AI, in my opinion, like it's not the technology that is failing us. It is how we are interacting with it because everything is becoming so the same, right? Everything sounds the same. Everything is not differentiated anymore. And I believe that we are going to go all the way back to where we started and we're going to have a premium on the human performance. We're going to have a premium on the human connection and collaboration. And when we see this impact of organizations letting go of their lower level workers who are junior employees because AI can do all of that work, You watch what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years from now when we have this massive leadership gap and we have this massive knowledge gap, because we're going to be going back and we're going to be hiring people at premium rates to do that kind of work because we didn't build the skill sets in right now. And we were short sighted in bringing AI in when, yes, I believe it does have a place, but we are going way far past where that should be right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think AI doesn't replace. I think it enhances. And there's some tasks that it will replace, obviously, and
Yeah.
jobs that it will replace,
Yeah.
which is just technology. It's kind of like the conveyor belt, the assembly line in Detroit, right? That the assembly
Yeah.
line replaced humans doing it. That there's
Yeah.
natural evolutions to that, and you're right. I think there's some things. I think someone taught me one time. He said, Steve, the biggest reason people fail is laziness or greed. He goes, you can always probably track it back to someone being lazy or someone being greedy as to their downfall. And if you
Yeah.
look at a lot of things that people do, maybe they're being greedy in business and they're trying to grab more profit, profit over people or whatever the case may be. But I have to say, it's been pretty accurate so far. And it's one of those principles or rules that it doesn't change over time. It's still pretty accurate. And I always find that interesting that you look at the downfall, you go back in history, history repeats itself. The Roman Empire, that you look at the past, you will see the future. Many people don't
Absolutely.
study the past. You wrote a book. Books are made of chapters. Our
Yeah.
lives, I believe, are made of chapters, and every day is a page.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't go back and read the page of our life the day before, the month before, and we just keep moving forward. And I think sometimes we need to go back and we need to
Right.
learn and we need to read and we need to reflect. And I don't think that's done very often. Maybe it's the busy lifestyle that we all live. I don't know, but I
Hmm.
agree with you. I think there will be a price to pay for the instantaneous fix it now mindset.
Hmm. Yep. 100%. History repeats itself. We see that in, Europe in the 40s, and, we have similar things happening today. I mean, if we pay attention to the past, we can see what's coming.
Yeah. So, final question here before we kind of wrap up here. Is
Mhm.
there any truth that you now know in business or in life that you wish somebody would have told Jen Nash coming out of, Ann Arbor, Michigan and out of college, ready to start her entrepreneurial journey?
So I will take it back actually one step further. I will take it back to when I started in the corporate world.
Okay.
And that is this, that no one will promote yourself better than you. Your work will not be noticed by you keeping your head down and doing a great job. And if that is something that you have been taught, unlearn it right away, because it will not help you get where you need to go in your career. You have to toot your own horn. You have to let people know the things that you're accomplishing, the value that you're bringing, the difference that you're making. And that is what is going to help you move forward.
I think that's great. I've never heard that before. I think that's a very well said. I agree with you 100%. I've just never heard anyone say that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Jen, if they want to get a hold of you and learn more about you, buy your book, see some of your
Yeah.
courses, how do they do that?
Sure. So my website is drjennifernash.com. That's drjennifernash.com. The book Be Human, Lead Human is available on amazon.com. All of my courses and all of my keynote speaking, those are all available on my website as well. And there's contact info there that you can reach out to, and we'll get right back with you when we get your email.
Awesome. Jeniffer, it's a pleasure talking to you today, and I appreciate your insight, and I think you've got some great knowledge and great perspectives. So thank you for being on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
All right, folks, and we will see you next week for another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.